Well, we continue with more reaction tonight. We're joined by the new South African Communist Party's General Secretary, Soli Mapaila. Mr. Mapaila, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Of course, you know, an unexpected way, I imagine, for you to end off a weekend where you'd have been celebrating your recent nomination to leading the SACP and then losing one of your fellow comrades.
Yeah, indeed, a very, very sad loss. You'll know that just a couple of years ago, she rejoined the Communist Party publicly. She has been a member all these years in the underground. But first, I think let's just extend our message of condolences to the Duarte family, as well as the Dango and the Whitley families, and all our comrades in the organization, the people of South Africa, that she selflessly worked so hard to serve all her years, including building structures of our movement, the youth, the students, the women, the trade unions, the underground. There's no component of our struggle that Comrade Jessie did not participate in. But most of all, I think for me, she was one of my confidante. Even when we had difficulties in the organization, we still find a brief moment from time to time to talk. She was a fiery leader in terms of confronting challenges facing the people. She never compromised on the side of the people. I think we'll miss her, particularly in the workings of the alliance. Recently, when we were responding to the COVID-19 economic challenges, she led our economic response team at the alliance, and we're having meetings till late, very diligent, ensuring that the people can be served properly. And many ministers know she will call them to account for any other thing that was a mishap from the political office at Luthuli House. And we really miss her contributions as the Communist Party and the rest of the alliance movement.
Many people have spoken about her as being a straight talker, not afraid of confronting even difficult matters, including, you know, some members of cabinet who sometimes maybe are not doing what they've committed to do. Do you have any examples, perhaps, that you can share with us where she maybe called you to order, part of what you've seen?
Well, myself, I've been called to order several times by Comrade Jessie. I think when we were disbanding the SDUs, she was then, at the time, still the MEC for Economic Safety in Gauteng. In Thokoza, she came and she was enforcing the disarmament of the SDUs, because she was now saying the democratic government is in charge of security forces. Why do you still want extra judicial security establishments? So we had quite a number of difficulties with some of the people. And when she came into the meeting and she insisted and she said to the comrades, you know, comrades, because I see most of you are armed, let's put our firearms on the table. And we're like, Comrade Jessie. She says, yeah, let's put our firearms on the table. You are prepared to fight. Let's fight. And we said, no, there's no fight. Let's discuss. And I think Comrade Duma managed, because at the time, managed to intervene. But generally, that was one area. There was those early years. Now, recently, in the alliance discussions, we've had major battles, particularly when we were trying to save the South African Airways recently, and workers were facing difficulties in the middle of COVID-19. So we had multiple challenges. We're also dealing with the comprehensive economic response politically, and she was leading that team. That team was meeting almost every single day, and she was in charge of it, and also in charge of all other organizational processes simultaneously, and they were able to produce a comprehensive report. I must do say also to a credit that some of the people in government distorted some of the interventions that we made and created something that was ultimately presented at NEDLEC, actually missing a great opportunity that we could have rolled back commodification of basic services in this country, even neoliberal discourse, because we felt that COVID-19 had also accorded South Africa an opportunity to reverse certain things. Government all over the world were called upon to make interventions, and we led that particular process. And I think, to me, that will stand out as one of the major policy interventions in the directions of our economy.
There have been some turbulent moments for the tripartite alliance over the last couple of years. As somebody who had revived her membership of the SACP, you don't always see eye to eye with your alliance partner, the ANC, of which she was the Deputy Secretary General of. How did she toe that line? How did she balance, rather, those sometimes conflicting views?
Well, the alliance components are not personalities, it's organizations. So individuals will come from different, even particular positions from their own respective collectives, and therefore they will represent that in the meeting. But of course, we'll always tackle issues from a different perspective based on what will be the position of the ANC at a particular point in time. But there are many other times when, of course, she was a left comrade, no doubt about that, all along. She has never ceased to be left, and we'll just tackle issues from that particular perspective. So it was not personal. It would be ideological in some of the differences, but not with her, because she was a left comrade. It will only to the extent that maybe there's a need for justification of this or that particular policy of the ANC, because as a leader of the ANC, she needs to defend all policies of the ANC. But she can appreciate their weaknesses, some of those policies. And I think recently, after the victory of our Irish comrades, she was extremely excited by that. In fact, if I remember, she would have taken some couple of days to try and visit, because that victory was something else where the left forces, particularly in Europe, have suffered greatly, and the Irish comrades were coming up and ascending, and this was really encouraging to her, and she kept on referring to this. In fact, she gave us a first-hand report directly from those comrades, because she was in direct contact with them, and they were giving her feedbacks about what was happening in the campaigns and so forth, sharing strategies. So those kind of examples, she will bring them to the localities to say, they pushed up to this level, we can push up to this level to get these particular results. But I think, like I said, many ministers, they'll know they'll receive several calls from her for this and that, just from an ANC guidance position or even alliance guidance position. I think you'll remember that there was a time when we were unhappy with the lack of expansion of the SABC, for instance. And there was a late meeting where I was participating in with and some of the leadership in the SABC, but basically to look into why we're not launching, in the context of COVID-19, a health channel, for instance, an education channel, because schools are closed. And she was quite hard on the table about this question. These are developmental issues. Now, I mean, I still believe those are questions that we must still place on the table. So this is the kind of Jessie Duarte that will always linger in my mind. But a very, very great comrade, a good smile, that crackling smile when she's happy. You know, never a person to be angry at a comrade, but she will engage you. Literally, you have to know your story. If you are to stand in front of her or to put a particular proposition, if it's too weak, forget it. She's not just going to buy it just because it was raised by so and so.
All right, South African Communist Party General Secretary Soli Mapaila. Let's leave it there for tonight.